We were reading about the new creation, wonderfully beautiful, harmonious, rich, complex, full of the power of harmony and oneness, expressed in so many, many different ways. Now a contrast. Against this glory of spiritual states, their parallels and yet their opposites, floated and swayed, eclipsed and shadow-like, as if a doubt made substance, flickering, pale. This other scheme, two vast negations found. A world that knows not its inhabiting self, labors to find its cause and need to be. A spirit ignorant of the world it made, obscured by matter, travestied by life, struggles to emerge, to be free, to know and reign. These were close tied in one disharmony, yet the divergent lines met not at all. Three powers governed its irrational course. In the beginning, an unknowing force. In the middle, an embodied, striving soul. In its end, a silent spirit denying life. A dull and infelicitous interlude unrolls its dubious truth to a questioning mind, compelled by the ignorant power to play its part and to record her inconclusive tale. The mystery of her inconscient plan, and the riddle of a being born from night by a marriage of necessity with chance. This darkness hides our nobler destiny, a chrysalis of a great and glorious truth. It stifles the winged marvel in its sheath, lest from the prison of matter it escape, and wasting its beauty on the formless vast, merged into the unknowable's mystery, leave unfulfilled the world's miraculous fate. As yet, thought only some high spirit's dream, or a vexed illusion in man's toiling mind. A new creation from the old shall rise. A knowledge inarticulate find speech. Beauty suppressed burst into paradise bloom. Pleasure and pain dive into absolute bliss. A tongueless oracle shall speak at last. The superconscient, conscious grow on earth. The eternal's wonders join the dance of time. But now all seemed a vainly teeming vast, upheld by a deluded energy. To a spectator self-absorbed and mute, careless of the unmeaning show he watched, regarding the bizarre procession pass like one who waits for an expected end. He saw a world that is from a world to be. There he divined rather than saw or felt, far off upon the rim of consciousness, transient and frail, this little whirling globe, and on it left like a lost dream's vain mold, a fragile copy of the spirit's shell, his body gathered into mystic sleep. A foreign shape it seemed, a mythic shade. We'll go this way. Yes, you'll start, please, Nargis.
Against this glory of spiritual states, their parallels and yet their opposites, floated and swayed, eclipsed and shadow-like, as if a doubt made substance, flickering, pale, this other scheme, two vast negations found.
Thank you. So against, in contrast to this glory of spiritual shapes that King Asvapati has been experiencing in the house of the Spirit, the new creation, he sees this other scheme, this world, which is based on, it's founded on two vast negations. A negation is something that says no. This other scheme, in this other scheme, are parallels to those wonderful, glorious spiritual states, the divine mind, the divine life, the divine substance. Here, they're parallels, and yet they're opposites. What is here, it's parallel to there, but the very opposite of those glorious spiritual states. There's floating and swaying, eclipsed and shadow-like. We experience an eclipse if a shadow comes across the sun. Also, there's no light there. It's just like a shadow. It's as if a doubt made substance, if that would be possible, if some vast question mark, a doubtful state, has actually become substance, become substantial, flickering, pale, flickering. There's no steadiness, something changing, pale. He can see this other scheme that we live in. So what are these two negations? He tells in the next sentence. Please read, Bhavan.
A word that knows not its inhabiting self, labors to find its course and needs to be. A spirit ignorant of the world it needs, obscured by matter, travestied by life,
Travestied.
By life, struggles to emerge, to be free, to know and frame. These were close tight in one disharmony, yet the divergent lines met and all.
Yes. So this is these two negations which are the base of the world that we know. There's a world, a manifestation that is ignorant of the self which is inhabiting it. This world is struggling, laboring to find why it exists. What is its cause? What is the need for it to exist at all? And on the other hand, there's a self, a spirit, which is ignorant of the world it has made, because it is involved in matter, obscured, darkened, made ignorant by matter. Life travesties it. To travesty something, to make a travesty of something, is to make something like a caricature of it. A picture of it which distorts and spoils the thing as it is. So there's some kind of representation of that spirit, of that life in the life that we know, but it's just a travesty. It's a copy which distorts, spoils what the spirit is. So that's ignorant spirit, which is obscured by matter, which is travestied, caricatured by life, is struggling to emerge and to be free, to know and reign. That's us, that's what's happening to us. So these two, this world and this self or spirit, are tied closely together, but not in harmony, in disharmony. They're bound together, and they are moving in different directions, the divergent lines, lines that are going in different directions. So because they're going in different directions, they don't meet.
Three powers govern his irrational force. In the beginning, an unknown force. In the middle, an embodied striving soul. In its end, a silent spirit denying life.
Denying life.
Denying life.
Yeah, to deny means to say no. So these are the three powers which govern the irrational course of this other scheme that we live in. In the beginning, an unknowing force, this energy, material energy, with all its unconsciousness. In the middle, beings like us, an embodied, striving soul, a soul that's trying to get into a better state, living here in a body of matter which obscures it, and living a life which travesties it. And the end it seems to be leading towards is a kind of nirvana, a silent spirit that denies life, that says no to life. For so long that has been seemed to be the goal of life on earth, this escape. Yuli.
Dull and infelicitous interlude unrolls its dubious truth to a questioning mind, compelled by the ignorant power to play its part and to record her inconclusive tale. The mystery of her inconscient plane and the riddle of a being born from night by a marriage of necessity with chance.
Yes. So he says this world that we are in is dull. It's not really very, very interesting. And it's infelicitous. It's unfortunate. It shouldn't have happened. And it's unhappy. Both these meanings are there. If somebody uses an infelicitous expression, it means one that it would have been better not to have used. But literally it means unhappy. So he says this is an interlude. An interlude is something that is played out, or it's usually a piece of music, or it may be a small play or something that's played out between two more important things. It just comes in between. An interlude. It's played in between something. So this dull and infelicitous interlude is unrolling, it's playing itself out. It's playing out or displaying its dubious truth, its reality, whatever it is, that is so doubtful and of doubtful value. It's unrolling that, and the witness is this questioning mind. This questioning mind, our mind, or we can say the cosmic mind, is compelled by the ignorant power. It is forced, it has to do it. It can't do otherwise, it's driven. It's compelled by that ignorant power. I think this ignorant power is the same as the unknowing force who's at the origin. So that ignorant power is compelling the mind to play its part. Its part is to gather knowledge, to try to know, and to remember, to record this inconclusive tale, this story of the creation or of the earth from its beginnings. It's inconclusive. We can't be clear what the end is or will be. It doesn't give a clear conclusion. And that mind has to record the mystery of the inconscient plan, the plan that's being followed by that unknowing force. And the riddle, the real riddle, how can we be here? How can we, at least half-conscious beings, how could we be born out of that night, that darkness of no life, no awareness, no consciousness? We seem to have been born out of that inconscience by a marriage of necessity and chance. Necessity is what has to happen, what's been predetermined. Perhaps in the way that the Big Bang happened, certain things had to follow. But apart from that necessity, there's also a play of chance, of things that didn't have to happen, that just seem to have happened for no particular reason. Randomness. And these two factors working together seem to have given rise, first of all, to life on earth, and then to the appearance of conscious beings like us. So that's what this questioning mind sees, all this mystery. Joel.
This darkness hides our nobler destiny, a chrysalis of a great and glorious truth. It stifles the winged marvel in its sheet, lest from the prison of matter escape, and wasting its beauty on the formless vast, merged into the unknowable's mystery, lived unfulfilled the world's miraculous fate.
So this darkness, this obscurity, is hiding our nobler destiny. We have another destiny, but it is not obvious. It is hidden in this darkness. This darkness, he says, is a chrysalis, the chrysalis of a great and glorious truth. A chrysalis is a stage in the development of an insect. Something hatches from an egg. It is the chrysalis form. And then it encloses itself in a kind of covering, and inside changes its form completely, just becomes a kind of liquid mass. But I was reading the other day that the DNA of that liquid mass is exactly the same as that of the form which hatches from the egg.
And we cannot see what happens.
And we can't see what's happening there, no? And then eventually that chrysalis bursts open, the darkness opens, and something beautiful comes out, a butterfly or a dragonfly or something like that. Yeah? So this darkness is like that. It's holding some potentiality in it. A great and glorious truth is there inside the chrysalis. Or even the chrysalis is an expression of that great and glorious truth. But the darkness is stifling the winged marvel. The winged marvel is that great and glorious truth which is going to come out like a magnificent butterfly. It gets stifled in that darkness. When you stifle somebody, you make it difficult for them to breathe even. It's doing that lest. This word lest is a very useful word for poets. It means so that not, so that something shall not happen. No? So lest it escapes, lest that winged marvel, which is the soul, which is the truth, escapes from the prison of matter. Deliberately we are kept in this darkness. The soul is kept in this darkness. Because if it escaped, what would it do? It would just waste its beauty on the formless vast in empty space. It would become merged with its origin in the unknowable's mystery. And in doing that, escaping from matter, it would leave unfulfilled the world's miraculous fate. The soul, the truth, is imprisoned in matter so that something can get changed in the matter itself. And if the truth, if the soul escapes too early, that fulfillment doesn't happen. That's a remarkable thing that he's telling us. We're always wondering why it isn't easier to find the psychic being, why it isn't easier to unite with the divine, and why are we in this prison of matter? It's because we have something to do here.
Kind of perfection actually in this world.
Yes.
Until it's not perfect.
Until it's not transformed, then we have to stay here and do the work that we've agreed to do but forgotten all about the agreement. Patricia.
As yet, thought only some high spirit's dream, or a vexed illusion in man's toiling mind. A new creation from the old shall rise, a knowledge inarticulate find speech, beauty suppressed burst into paradise gloom, pleasure and pain dive into absolute bliss.
So this new creation is going to emerge out of the old one, this dim, obscure scheme that we are in now. But at the moment, we tend to think that that new creation is just the dream of some higher spirit or some illusion in man's struggling mind. But Aurobindo is telling us it will rise out of the present state. It shall rise. That knowledge which is involved in matter, which is inarticulate, which can't be expressed, or which can't express itself, shall find speech. The word shall is understood in each of the next lines. No? Shall rise, shall find, shall burst, and shall dive. He doesn't repeat it in every line, but we have to understand that it's there. And knowledge inarticulate. If we're inarticulate, we can't get our words out, or we can't find the right words to express what we're thinking. And knowledge inarticulate shall find speech. Some beauty which is suppressed, which can't express itself, will be able, shall burst. It will be able to blossom into like a flower of paradise, something unimaginably beautiful. And pleasure and pain, these dualities which we experience here, will dive and find themselves in absolute bliss, because in any case, they are only distorted expressions of ananda, of bliss. Eve?
The tongueless oracle shall speak at last. The superconscious grow and flow. It arose from there joining the dance of time.
So we pronounce it tongueless. This is our tongue. A tongueless oracle, an oracle that can't speak because it hasn't got any tongue. It's inarticulate. At last it shall speak, it shall give its message. And the superconscient shall grow conscious here on earth. It won't be superconscient anymore. It will be part of the earth consciousness. And the eternal's wonders shall join the dance of time. Time and eternity will be partners and joined in expression. So that's how it shall be when this new creation, which he has given us a description of in the previous section, rises from the old.
But now all seem vainly teeming God, at will their deluded energy, the spectator self-absorbed and mute, careless of the unmeaning show he watched, regarding the desire procession pause, like one who waits for an expected end.
Yes. So this is a picture of Prakriti and Purusha, no? The world that he sees, this scheme founded on these two vast negations, it all seems to be useless, in vain, to have no point or value. It's teeming, it's full of little things like the ants teeming, swarming around this vast. But for what? For what reason? No? It seems to be supported by this energy, this ignorant force who is deluded, who's lost her mind, doesn't know what she's doing, is misguided, foolish, and it's shown up to be seen by this spectator, the consciousness, but that spectator is really not interested in it. He's only interested in himself. He's self-absorbed, he's silent, he doesn't say anything, he doesn't do anything, he doesn't respond to everything she's showing him, because he doesn't care about this unmeaning show that he's watching. He's just regarding, he's gazing at this procession which the energy, Prakriti, unrolls for him. He's just waiting for it to end, for it all to be over. He's bored with it. Francesca.
He saw a world that is from a world to be. There he divined rather than saw or felt, far off upon the rim of consciousness. Transient and frail, this little whirling globe, and on it led like a lost dream's vain mound, a fragile copy of the spirit's shell, his body gathered into mystic sleep. A foreign shape it seemed, a mythic shade.
So he saw, this is Asvapati now. He is in that world of the future. He's in that world which will be, the world to be. And he's seeing our world, the world that is. He saw a world that is from a world to be, that will be. And there in that world that is, he doesn't exactly see, he doesn't exactly feel, he somehow guesses, he divines, he has some sense. The water diviner, he walks with his sticks and then he can feel, oh, here there's water. We don't have a name for that sense. What we find out in that way we call divining, some other kind of sense. He senses that far off on the rim, on the very edge, outer edge of consciousness, there's this little globe, this little whirling globe, transient and frail. It's weak, fragile. Anything can blow it up. It's been born and it will die. It's passing. On this little globe, this earth globe, left his body, his own body, in a kind of trance, his body gathered into mystic sleep. And it seems to him, when he senses his body there, it's like the mold, the form that we use to make something. Like we make a candle by pouring wax into a mold, or we make a statue by pouring metal or plaster into a mold. The mold of a vain dream, or it's the vain, useless mold of a dream that is meaningless. There his body has been left. That body is a fragile copy, breakable, perishable copy of the outermost shell of the spirit. And when he sees it or senses it lying there, it seems to be something that doesn't belong to him, a foreign shape, or even just a shade, a shadow that doesn't have any real, never has had any real existence, a mythic shade. A myth is something, in this sense, is something that's not true, illusory. It's not the only meaning of the word myth, but that's what it means here when he says mythic. Martin.
Alien now seemed that dim far universe. Self and eternity alone were true.
You can read the next sentences.
Then memory climbed to him from the striving plains, bringing a cry for once loved, cherished things, and to the cry, as to its own lost call, a ray replied from the occult supreme.
This is such a wonderful sentence. So when he senses that the material universe, it seems alien, strange to him. The only reality he can believe in is self, eternity. He's united with the One. He's living in the house of the Spirit. He's experiencing the new creation. That's the only thing that's true. But there comes this memory. Climbs up to him from those struggling, striving plains. And that memory brings a cry, an appeal, an aspiration from things that he has known, once loved, cherished things. Things that you cherish are things that you value and love. And so, as that call comes, there's a response from the Supreme. A ray of light replied from the occult Supreme, the hidden Supreme. It's reminding me at this moment, these lines are reminding me very, very powerfully of the very beginning of the poem, which starts in complete darkness, no? And in that darkness, there's this little movement that seems to give room for some kind of shapeless memory to wake up. The mother says the beginning of aspiration. And somehow in response to that movement, there comes an eye of deity. A ray comes down looking, where has that little movement, where has that little call come from? And here he says that cry is coming to the heights as to its own lost call. It's a part of itself which is lost there in the darkness. And that's how it is at the beginning of the poem. That I comes looking for some lost self who is too lost and too fallen even to remember what it is that it's missing. So when a little aspiration goes up, always there will be a response, because the response comes from our own highest self. So from Asvapati's highest self, that ray comes down. Dhanalakshmi.
For even there the boundless oneness dwells, to its own sight unrecognizable. It lived still, sunk in its own tenebrous seas, upholding the world's inconscient unity, hidden in matter's insentient multitude.
So in this scheme, even here, the boundless oneness is living. But it's living in a form that it can't recognize, to its own sight unrecognizable. It's living still sunk in its own tenebrous seas, its own seas of shadowy inconscience. But it's upholding all the oneness of the world. We are not aware of the oneness of the world, but the fact that the boundless oneness is dwelling here means that we are all indivisible and connected, and we can't really separate each from each. So that oneness is hidden in matter's insentient multitude. All the many, many, many forms of matter which are not even alive yet. They are insentient. They don't have any form of senses or consciousness. Rosa.
Is seed self sown in the
indeterminate forfeits, yeah.
Its glory of divinity, concealing the omnipotence of its force, concealing the omniscience of its soul, and agent of its own transcendent will. It merges knowledge in the inconscient deep, accepting error, sorrow, death, and pain. It pays the ransom of the ignorant night, redeeming by its substance nature's form.
Well, this seed self, the little spark of the one which gets sown like a farmer sows his seeds in the indeterminate, in the formlessness. When the seed, the divine seed, is scattered like that into the unmanifest, it forfeits, it gives up its glory of divinity. It hides its power, conceals the omnipotence of its force. It conceals all knowledge of its soul. So these are the two aspects, the force and the soul. The force is omnipotent, but it seems limited, restricted. And the soul carries all knowledge within it, but when it accepts this involution, then it seems to lose all that knowledge. As one forgetting, he seeks for himself. So that seed self, he says, is an agent of its own transcendent will. What was its will on the heights before entering into manifestation? The seed self merges knowledge in the inconscient deep, in all the depths of not knowing. It accepts this load of error. When the consciousness is lost, when the omniscience is hidden, we can't help making mistakes. No? Sorrow, death and pain. But in this way, the soul accepting all this, it pays the ransom of the ignorant night. When pirates or terrorists take somebody hostage, they usually want something in return. No? If it's pirates, it's normally money. No?
But here the ransom is very high.
Here the ransom is a big ransom, yes. Because what has to be ransomed, no? It's the Supreme Himself descended into night, no?
The value also very high.
Yes. Yeah. So it pays the ransom. If we pay the ransom, we redeem, we buy back nature's fall. So Asvapati sees all this, no? He senses the earth there, he senses his own body there, and it seems absolutely unreal. But then some memory comes, he feels his connection, and with that connection there comes all that cry that reminds him of the aspiration that has taken him on this journey, and there's this response from the heights, from his highest self. And then he understands the whole thing. I'll read the next bit. Himself he knew, and why his soul had gone into earth's passionate obscurity to share the labor of an errant power which by division hopes to find the one. So he understands the whole process, why he's taken birth in a human body and why he's climbed back up, and what he has to do next. Errant means one that's in error, that's wandering, making mistakes. The two words are closely connected, no? To those knights errant, they were wandering from place to place, they didn't know where they were going to go next. And error means you don't know where you're going, you make mistakes. So, Let's go back and read that section which begins on page 329. Against this glory of spiritual states, their parallels and yet their opposites, floated and swayed, eclipsed and shadow-like, as if a doubt made substance, flickering, pale. This other scheme, two vast negations found. A world that knows not its inhabiting self, labors to find its cause and need to be. A spirit ignorant of the world it made, obscured by matter, travestied by life, struggles to emerge, to be free, to know and reign. These were close tied in one disharmony, yet the divergent lines met not at all. Three powers governed its irrational course. In the beginning, an unknowing force. In the middle, an embodied, striving soul. In its end, a silent spirit denying life. A dull and infelicitous interlude unrolls its dubious truth to a questioning mind, compelled by the ignorant power to play its part and to record her inconclusive tale. The mystery of her inconscient plan, and the riddle of a being born from night by a marriage of necessity with chance. This darkness hides our nobler destiny, a chrysalis of a great and glorious truth. It stifles the winged marvel in its sheath, lest from the prison of matter it escape, and wasting its beauty on the formless vast, merged into the unknowable's mystery, leave unfulfilled the world's miraculous fate. As yet thought only some high spirit's dream, or a vexed illusion in man's toiling mind. A new creation from the old shall rise, a knowledge inarticulate find speech, beauty suppressed burst into paradise bloom, pleasure and pain dive into absolute bliss. A tongueless oracle shall speak at last, the superconscient conscious grow on earth, the eternal's wonders join the dance of time. But now all seemed a vainly teeming vast, upheld by a deluded energy, to a spectator self-absorbed and mute, careless of the unmeaning show he watched, regarding the bizarre procession pass like one who waits for an expected end. He saw a world that is from a world to be. There he divined rather than saw or felt, far off upon the rim of consciousness, transient and frail, this little whirling globe. And on it, left like a lost dream's vain mould, a fragile copy of the spirit's shell, his body gathered into mystic sleep. A foreign shape it seemed, a mythic shade. Alien now seemed that dim far universe. Self and eternity alone were true. Then memory climbed to him from the striving plains, bringing a cry from once loved, cherished things. And to the cry, as to its own lost call, a ray replied from the occult supreme. For even there the boundless oneness dwells. To its own sight unrecognizable, it lived still, sunk in its own tenebrous seas, upholding the world's inconscient unity, hidden in matter's insentient multitude. This seed self, sown in the indeterminate, forfeits its glory of divinity, concealing the omnipotence of its force, concealing the omniscience of its soul. An agent of its own transcendent will, it merges knowledge in the inconscient deep. Accepting error, sorrow, death, and pain, it pays the ransom of the ignorant night, redeeming by its substance nature's fall. Himself he knew, and why his soul had gone into earth's passionate obscurity, to share the labor of an errant power, which by division hopes to find the one.